The dark side of perfection. The neighborhood of Willow Creek was the epitome of perfection. From the immaculately manicured lawns to the uniform colonial-style homes, everything about it was designed to exude wealth, taste, and tranquility. The residents were proud of their community and took great care to maintain its idyllic appearance. They were a close-knit group, always eager to help one another and take part in community events. But beneath the surface of Willow Creek's perfection was a dark side. Jealousy and competition ran rampant, and many of the residents went to great lengths to keep up with the Joneses. They spared no expense in creating the perfect home, the perfect life, and the perfect family. They would do anything to maintain their status no matter the cost. One such residence was Ava, a beautiful woman with an impeccable taste for luxury. She lived in the largest and most opulent home in Willow Creek, with a husband who was equally obsessed with perfection. They had 2 children, both of whom were enrolled in the best schools and took part in the most prestigious extracurricular activities. Ava was determined to keep up the appearance of the perfect family, no matter what it took. But Ava's obsession with perfection was not limited to her family. She was constantly looking for ways to one-up her neighbors and maintain her status as the Queen of Willow Creek. And when a new family moved in across the street, Ava saw an opportunity to prove her superiority once and for all. The new family, the Millers, was just as perfect as Ava's, if not more so. They had 3 children, all of whom were well-behaved and excelled in academics. The wife, Caroline, was beautiful and elegant, and the husband, Jack, was a successful businessman. They seemed to have it all, and Ava was immediately threatened by their presence. Ava began to scheme, looking for ways to prove that she was still the top dog in Willow Creek. She threw elaborate parties and made sure that everyone in the neighborhood was invited. But the Millers were always the center of attention. Ava was consumed by jealousy and hatred, and her once beautiful appearance began to deteriorate as her obsession took hold. As time went on, Ava's behavior became increasingly erratic. She was constantly spying on the Millers, trying to find any weaknesses or flaw that she could exploit. But the more she tried, the more she realized that the Millers were just as perfect as they appeared to be. And that only made her angrier. One day, Ava's obsession reached a boiling point. She discovered that Caroline was pregnant with her 4th child, which would give the Millers an advantage in the never-ending competition for perfection. Ava was furious, and she snapped. That night, Ava snuck into the Millers' home intent on destroying the life they had built. But as she was rummaging through their belongings, she was startled by a sound. She turned to find Jack, who had returned home early from work. Ava was crazed, and in a fit of rage, she attacked Jack, bludgeoning the man and killing him. Without hesitation, she fled the scene, leaving behind a trail of destruction and evidence. The next morning, the police arrived in Willow Creek, and Ava was quickly taken into custody. The residents were shocked and horrified by what had happened. They had never suspected that the perfect neighborhood was harboring such a monster. Ava was charged with murder and sentenced to life in prison. The residents of Willow Creek were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered community. They struggled to come to terms with the fact that the woman they had admired and envied for her perfection was capable of such a horrific crime. Caroline Miller, who was now left to raise her children without her husband, moved away from Willow Creek, unable to bear the memories and the constant reminders of the tragedy that had taken place in her home. The other residents began to take a closer look at themselves and their own obsession with perfection. They realized that in their attempts to keep up with the Joneses, they had lost sight of what was truly important in life. They made a conscious effort to let go of their envy and competition and to focus on the things that really mattered, like family, friendship, and love. Willow Creek was never the same after the events of that fateful night. The once perfect neighborhood was now stained by the memory of the crime that had taken place there. But in the end, the residents learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of obsession and the importance of living a life that is true to oneself.